Welcome to the Purpose to Create podcast with Natasha Wright, a business podcast for photographers and creativepreneurs who want to level up as they pursue their purpose to create. Lean in as we connect, inspire, and impact you as you build and grow your business.
I'm so hyped that you're here and listening to today's show. Today's guest is Kaye McCoy, a Los Angeles photographer most known for the way she highlights her subjects in a stylish and bold way. When she's not shooting, you can catch her cuddled up with a good book or visiting a host of fashionable cafes. In today's episode, we're chatting all about Instagram strategies. Hey, Kaye, welcome to the show.
Hey, girl. I'm super excited to be here.
Hey, girl, I'm super excited too. And just a little bit background about how Kaye and I met. We recently went to a workshop earlier this year called Creative Complex, hosted in Atlanta, and she and I have become fast friends, and we have been in touch ever since, motivating and encouraging each other along the way. So I'm super excited to have her on today's show. So let's jump right in. So you are a hella dope creative. And before I met you, I would follow your Instagram page and I would be so inspired by the work that you would post. And you're just an all around cool person. So I want to know a little bit more about your journey as a creative.
So yeah, a lot of people ask me about how I got started in photography, and I actually got started a little haphazardly, honestly. So just to give you a little bit of my educational background, I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design for graphic design. I actually did not complete it. I dropped out in my senior year and kind of just went straight into the workforce, but always been creative as a kid, drawing, painting, crafts. I've taken like a wood workshop, all kinds of different things like as a kid. So just always had that like creative nature. But as far as photography is concerned, I was introduced through a blogger. One of my Instagram friends, me and her kind of had lunch one day, and she was in the market for a new photographer. Her boyfriend was taking her pictures at the time, and he had accepted a job in a different state. And so she was like, I know you have like a camera, but you don't really use it. And, you're the only person that I know that's kind of like into like the style blog world or just has like a good eye, because she had noticed the photos that I was taking on my Instagram at the time. And this is like 2013, 2014. And so I had never like taken a photography class. Like I didn't know anything about photography really, but I had purchased a like entry-level DSLR camera at the time. I think it was a T4i. And so I pretty much had to like learn it on the job. Like I had the camera, she would show up in her outfit, and I was shooting on automatic at first and trying to figure it out as we went along. And then I really enjoyed the process of shooting her. Shooting with bloggers at that time was kind of like a hot thing. And so it was, they come like hair, makeup ready. They have concepts and ideas. So it was really, really fun, like creating art with her. But it forced me to really kind of just grasp everything. I had to like learn how to shoot manual. I had to figure out how to edit and learn about Lightroom and, exporting photos and things like that. So I basically just kind of had to learn on the job training, honestly, like in the midst of things. So that's how I got started. From there, pretty much, you know how Instagram is back in the day. Like if you tag your photographer and your following is pretty decent and people see you moving and y'all are creating art and they like what they see, they're like, who's your photographer? Or they'll click on the tags and they start to ask questions and start to like photos on your page. And, then other people in Atlanta start to hit me up about shooting. And Maddie James, who she used to go by Maddieology back then, but now she's Maddie James on Instagram. And I think her blog now is maddiejames.com. But she actually was like the first person to like officially hire me as their blog photographer. So I was on her team for like a year and a half, and we created some really cool content. And so Maddie was super supportive. She always tagged you on the caption. She always tagged you on the back end. If she's, talking about her process and how she shoots, she always shares like who her photographer is. So that kind of support really just helped other people to find out about me, and pretty much we just went from there.
And so you ended up in a unique situation where you automatically was in this niche with style bloggers, did you intend on, you know, working with
Being
bloggers or being a style photographer?
honestly, I think so. I was introduced to like style blogs like back in like 2010, and like the OG style bloggers, Carla's Closet, Ami Song. Those were like some of my favorites at the time. And I was just really, really infatuated with like how their imagery for some reason. It was a different style, like the detail shots and, these everyday, your everyday girls, and they're going to these really cute locations. They have these really cute outfits on. And, we just weren't used to seeing that. And so I had become pretty enamored with it. And I remember when Pinterest came around, all I would do was just pin these pictures, and I was like, oh, these are so cool. And I had this style board, and it had like, at the time, I think it had like over 2,000 pins, 3,000 pins of just like, different individualistic style. And I remember coming across this photo of one of my favorite bloggers her name was Gary Pepper Vintage or GaryPepperGirl.com. I don't know what she calls it now, but her name is Nicole Warren. And she had like beautiful, beautiful pictures. And but there was this one picture in particular that was taken of her like at Fashion Week. And she had on like this super cute gray top, like hair was super cute, had sunnies on. It was just like, I don't know, something about the picture was just really, really cool. And I was like, where is this? Like, what, like, how did they get this capture of her? And they're like, Nicole Warren at New York Fashion Week. And so clicking on that picture and like researching New York Fashion Week, I started to realize like, oh, there's like a whole nother world of like fashion photography that's like street style photography, where you're capturing people as they're entering or leaving these fashion shows in New York, Milan, Paris, and London. And so then I started to get really like infatuated with that look. Like, how are these shots being taken? And I think that really inspired me in the sense of that's how I started to shoot like my clients. Like first in the beginning stages of like, okay, we're looking at the bloggers and how they do things, but then it's like, how can we take, what I'm doing for my clients, but then use this inspiration that I have for the street style. And I think that's kind of like where I started to like formulate like my look that everybody kind of like has come to know. But definitely, I've always been like super inspired by like fashion. Like I think for me, what I always like to say is I don't feel like I grew up and like knew how to like put looks together. And so I was really inspired by the girls who were, putting these looks together. Like to me, it's like a art to fashion, like matching the top with a skirt or pants or, like some of these girls come real hard, like the textures, the fabrics, the silhouettes and things like that are really, really dope. So, I don't know. I just really kind of fell into it just because of my love of like seeing personal style.
Right, exactly. And at what point did you really start to notice that Instagram was changing and that you were able to, again, tap into something that a lot of people weren't really focusing on with content curation on Instagram?
I think following like a lot of fashion and lifestyle people on Instagram, obviously, like out of the gate, I've always been interested in the curation aspect of Instagram. I mean, like when we first started on Instagram, it definitely was just kind of like post whatever. People weren't really using Instagram for business per se. It was really just like a cool way to like showcase like little snippets or little tidbits of your life with like family or friends. And then when you start to realize that like other people could follow you that are outside of your circle, I think that's kind of when like the tides change and we start to like really, really care about like what we're showcasing. My Instagram is I feel like it's very organic for me. Like I don't have a content calendar or anything like that. Although I do think that if you are like a brand that sells like products and things like that, or like, are always pushing out something, maybe it's not a personal brand, but it's actually like a corporation or like a small business with like product based things. I mean, even now, like if you're a personal brand, having a content calendar is great. But just personally for me, I'm very like fluid, or I don't know if that's the right word, but just like I just post naturally. Like it's hard for me to think in advance of what I want to post on my page.
Right.
So I just kind of like let my natural, like what I do in my natural life kind of just guide me. But yeah, I mean, I think curating your Instagram this day and age, I think is important if you are like a business owner or a small, like I said, a product based business. I think it's just like an extension of your website, to be honest. I mean, I can elaborate on my thoughts on that. But yeah, I do think that it's important to pay attention to it for sure.
No, I love that. And I do want to come back and get your thoughts on, what will make Instagram an extension of your website? Because I know a lot of times clients nowadays don't even go look at your website. They look at Instagram.
No.
It is your website. So it's almost like you have to put so much time into making sure that Instagram, like you said, is an extension of your website. So I would like to dig a little deeper into what that looks like or your thoughts on that.
My thoughts on it are basically that I remember maybe like a year ago, I deactivated my Instagram. And sometimes I go through these little stints where I deactivate it. Sometimes I just take a little break. But I remember one of the first times that I did it, and I got bombarded with so many text messages, and people were like, "Where's your Instagram? Like, what's going on? Why did you delete your Instagram? Like, I'm trying to get you this job, or I'm trying to pitch you to this person, or I was telling my friend about your page and they wanted to book a shoot, or I was trying to tell them this place you went to, or, just all these different things." And I was like, I have a website. You know what I mean? Like, how come you're going to give them my website? And they're like, no, we need your Instagram. It's like not the same. Like, we want your Instagram. It was really adamant. And I was like, wow, like I spend a lot of money every month on this website. Like,
exactly. Like, can y'all go take a look at that? That's like, where all the updated information is.
Yeah, like just the template, updating it and whatnot or whatever. So I'm just like, wow, like, okay, my Instagram that we, that I kind of think is like, oh, this is my personal thing that I do. It has now become like, if that's it. Like if you meet somebody when you're out and about, they're like, what's your Instagram? Nobody says, what's your website?
No,
they're like, what's your Instagram?
Like, I don't even want throw the whole business card away, because now what's your Instagram handle? Okay, I'll just contact you there.
Right. And because I realized that Instagram is kind of like a one-stop shop, because we're in this like instant gratification world. Instagram is just convenient. Like, I realized that even now, like there are some things that I need to do to kind of just elevate my profile to make it easier to understand like what I do and what I offer. But it's just like, go on there. If you have a profile picture, okay, I see what you look like, so I know I got the right person. Then if you have your bio of what you do, it's like, okay, we know what she does, what your website is, like any other little tidbits of information. Obviously, you can put it in your bio. If I want to email you, I can just click the email button. If it's a brick and mortar store and I want to navigate there, we just click directions. Like if I want to call, it's right there. We don't have to go through all these different apps or different platforms or whatever to get the information that we need. Okay, you're a hairstylist. Like, I need a hairstylist for my wedding, or I'm trying to look cute and I'm in a new city. Like, I recently just moved back to LA, and it's like, okay, some of the girls that I used to use for hair, they don't live here anymore. So it's like, okay, how can I find someone? I'm going on Instagram instead of Google or Yelp, and I'm typing in LA hairstylist, and then anybody that has dope pictures of maybe I need braids or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you can find that information through Instagram. It's kind of been like a catch-all for everything that you need as far as like resources and stuff. And so I feel like a lot of times people are missing out on coins because of the fact that they don't deem the Instagram necessary. It's like, oh, well, my website is cool. And it's like, honestly, it's kind of hard sometimes to find people's websites. I mean, obviously, some people do really great at that. They invest in advertisements. They are, have great SEO and they pop right on up. But, it's just like Instagram is totally a resource that people are using and searching and interacting with every day. So it's like, why miss out on the coin that you can get from that platform because you don't think it's as important, that you don't think that you should focus your effort on how that looks.
Right, exactly. And I want to touch a little bit on the advertising piece. I know that we do it for websites and things like that, but for Instagram, is that something that you think is a valuable a valuable resource to invest in Instagram as far as advertisements and other ways that people invest, IGTV and all of these things to really, like you said, it's an extension of the website. So if it's an extension of the website, we have to treat it as such and to make sure that it's updated at all times. And that also includes throwing some money at it a little bit to increase your awareness online.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just now like starting to learn a little bit more about Instagram advertising and things. I mean, there are people who are totally way more knowledgeable about this, but I'm I'm starting to just see like with the algorithm change, it seems like there's this pay for play model. So like if you pay for advertisements, then obviously that puts you in a position to be seen to more people. Like you're basically paying to be seen versus where, before when everything was in chronological order, you knew at some point people were going to come across your stuff. So I think that I think the algorithm is making it so that depending on what you offer, like for me, if sometimes I do pay for, I have Instagram curation workshops and like small events. And so I have paid for advertisements in that regard. I know like a lot of like maybe designers, if they have like courses, I'll see their stuff pop up in advertisements. Or obviously, if you're a product based business, people will pay for ads so that their product can, kind of be seen in stories and in the feed. But it just seems like, if you want to be seen to a certain extent, you kind of have to, get into that pay mode with Instagram. How the strategies and like how effective that is, I don't feel, that I'm super knowledgeable about that, but I definitely would say at the very minimum that, taking a look or talking to someone about Instagram ads would be beneficial. Instagram and Facebook ads. I do have like a couple friends that they have product-based businesses and they rely heavily on Instagram and Facebook ads to kind of drive sales.
Right.
So, I definitely think it's effective at that point because just posting organically without any like influencer campaigns or things like that, I just feel like it's starting to become a little bit harder to get your stuff seen, especially even sometimes with influencers, because I feel like I'm sure a lot of us, like, if you follow a major influencer and they say, like, oh, I really love this shampoo, it's like, okay, girl, you got paid to say that you like the shampoo. So it's like sometimes, depending on the influencer or whatever, it's like we may not even like buy into it like we used to because we're so used to them pushing us stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely think that Instagram ads are obviously like a thing, Facebook ads as well, but I'm just not like super well versed on it. For me, I think what I am like through my platform and like as an artist, like I struggle with, I like curated things. I like things that look professional. I like things that are engaging or creative. And for me and my buying choices, like if I see things aesthetically, like in a aesthetically pleasing way, I am more prone to purchase it or buy into it. If it's not curated to a certain way that like I interact with, then I kind of, it may not interact with it. I may not interact with it, just period, I guess. So for me, I realized that obviously having a curated Instagram isn't necessary for everyone. There are tons of people who are, I guess, successful in working what they have and they don't really care about Instagram curation at all. But I think that if you're like a creative, like a photographer, a videographer, I think if you have a product-based business, a lot of my clients that I work with are product-based businesses. I think that's where there's really a true opportunity to curate your feed, like just to be able to show, that potential client or that potential customer, like what you can offer with your products through just like really, really crisp visuals. People really downplay the importance of just nice visuals. But for me, in terms of what we were saying earlier, the extension of the website, I'm basically kind of just telling like a lot of my clients or just people that I'm talking to recently, like about Instagram curation and whatnot, is that we spend so much money like on our website. We pay a lot for our brand photography. We pay a lot for product photography for the site. We pay for brand coaching and things like that. And it's just like a lot of times, sometimes the only way people are finding out about you, not the only way, but a lot of times the only place that people are going is on your Instagram. And so I'm not saying that you need to spend millions of dollars to curate your feed a certain way, but I just feel like there, with a lot of people, there's a disconnect. Like, your website is beautiful, it's so great, it's so well designed, but then when we get to your Instagram, it's just like none of that carries over. Like,
okay, so we talked a little bit about cohesiveness between your website and your Instagram page, but I want to dig a little bit deeper into the Instagram strategies for content creation, because I think that a lot of times people use the word curation, but we really don't have a clear understanding of what that really means. So first I want to know, what exactly is content curation as it relates to our Instagram feed?
so for me, content creation is basically the planning of your Instagram feed in the sense of visually. So a lot of people post in reference to just like, okay, well, I have this topic, or I have this product I need to push, and I'm just posting it because it's on my content calendar, but they're not really curating their feed. They're not really in their feed so that it flows visually. So they're not paying attention to color, or they're not trying to find harmony between the images that they post, so that there's like just like a visual rhythm. So for me, curation is about creating a cohesive look to your feed. So sometimes when you go to one of a really cool blogger that I like, her name is Misty Nocha. Like, if you go to her page, you notice that, or Asiyami Gold is a great example as well. When you go to their pages, you're like, boy, because everything, it just looks so similar. The color similar, the composition of their photos are really great. I feel like curation even goes down to like your captions. It's like being very engaging, giving people more information and pulling them in. But yes, so for me, curation is just not posting haphazardly. It's really taking into account the overall presence of your feed. So not thinking of posting and oh, does this photo look good? And you just post it. It's like, no, let's talk about, does this photo look good next to the previous photo? Does it look good next to the photo that's under it, or the photo that's diagonally across from it? And so instead of thinking of our grid in just individualistic squares, we're thinking about our feed as a group of 6, a group of 9, a group of 12, because obviously, you post in threes on Instagram. So that's, for me, that's what curation is. It's just really paying attention to like the visual representation of what your Instagram looks like. And I think that's different for everybody. If you follow me on Instagram, like recently I've been kind of doing like these Instagram makeover type audits. And so I've just been taking current feeds as they stand now and just giving a little bit of tips on like how they could have curated it better, simply using the same imagery that they've already posted, but just bringing a little more order.
Right.
So a lot of people don't take into account the photo under it or next to it. And so what I've been doing recently is doing these Instagram takeovers where I'm basically just rearranging the squares using the content that they already have, but just showcasing how they could have curated it better by taking into account the colors that are in each photo and how they would pair with other photos that they have on their feed, or basically just rearranging things in a way that's more visually appealing. And so that's pretty much what I teach like in my Instagram courses, is the curation. But then also what I've noticed is, as a photographer, is that a lot of business owners are just struggling with creating content. They feel like they have to have a photographer on staff, or they feel like they have to have a very expensive camera in order for them to create content. And what ends up happening is that they become stagnant. They don't post. They don't showcase their work or anything, or promote their business or launch their product, because they feel like they have to wait until they have the budget to be able to afford this and to be able to afford that. So you can create really stellar content with your phone. And so that's pretty much like my mission with my courses, is just to empower small business owners to continue to launch, continue to grow, continue to push. Don't stay stagnant because you feel like you have to have all these things. With Instagram, we're bombarded with all these people who tell us oh, I went to Italy to shoot with my photographer. And it's great if you can go, to Italy and shoot, but if you don't, I just want to empower women and small business owners that they can still create stellar content using what they have.
No, I love that because seriously is one of the pain points for me, and really focusing on curating my Instagram feed is because it just seems like so much work. And I feel like it's another thing that I have to focus on. And I usually go through stints where I'll post for a little bit and then I'm like, this is just too much. I got to come up with a caption. I got to make sure that I got to take into consideration, these squares next to it and above it and below it and all those things. It's like when you think about it, it's really a strategy to posting. And I feel like it's another full-time job that I just have not committed myself to. But I want to know if you can share with us, for people like me who feel like, curating is, again, another, tedious task to have to do. But, I found encouragement in what you said is really not that difficult if you put some thought into it and maybe plan a little bit better. You'll be able to really knock it out and really make it work for your business.
So my top 3 tips for curating your Instagram, if you're just kind of starting out, would one be to do a current Instagram audit and see what it is that you're currently posting. Notice the content types. Do you typically post photos outside? Do you typically post photos inside? Do you typically post photos with certain colors? Just kind of do like an audit to see like what you're currently posting, so you can just kind of have like inventory of what you should probably consistently keep posting, so that everything is cohesive. Like if you are shooting a lot of outdoor stuff, maybe we can keep that theme going for a little bit. Then if you decide to switch to shooting indoors, then keep that going for a little bit. Like things like that create cohesion. Paying attention to the type of colors that you typically use. Like, for instance, if you, as a wedding photographer or branding photographer, do you typically shoot your clients in studio, or do you typically shoot your clients outdoors in an outdoor setting? If you do shoot them outdoors, is it in a city setting, or do you typically shoot them in like grass and fields? If you do a mixture of both, then a tip that I like to give is like loop all of the photos you shoot outside, loop those together when you're posting in like a grid of 6 or 9. I like to think of my Instagram in rows. So you know how we have 3 rows. So I just like to make sure that when I'm posting, that row of 3 kind of is just cohesive, and I like to keep the colors and the tones of the photos. I like to keep that color scheme going for at least 6 to 9 rows, if that makes sense. So like when you go onto my Instagram feed, those like first 9 photos or first 12 photos, those all have like a similar color tone. And then I may move into a different color tone later. But I just like to make sure that when I'm I don't know how to describe it, but basically just creating a really clean rhythm. And I like to do that with color. So that's my second tip, would just be paying attention to the types of colors when you're posting. Like if you're shooting outside and you have a lot of like greens in the background, then maybe, you post photos that have like those similar colors next to it. I actually have a highlight on my Instagram that better would demonstrate this. So it's harder to describe it without showing an actual example of what I'm talking about. But there's a highlight on my Instagram it's called tips.
Okay.
So anyone can go there and kind of just go through like all the different tips. I share like some of the apps that I use, but most recently I did 2 Instagram takeovers, and it really kind of drives home that concept of like posting in this like rhythmic color scheme, which I think really helps.
Okay. So before we wrap up, I have one last question. Why should people curate their Instagram feeds?
So I think that curating your Instagram feed turns visitors to your profile to followers. And then I feel like those followers then become either customers or clients. And then I definitely think that curating your Instagram builds trust through consistency. So for example, we love watching TV, and we know that every Thursday we are going to see this particular show at this particular time, but then we also know that the visual aesthetics of that show are going to be consistent with each and every show. It's like if you see a show with super high quality on the first Monday, but then the next Monday you come back and the quality is poor, you're it may waver you from wanting to continue to tune into that show because there doesn't seem like there's any consistency in terms of like the way that it's being visually presented to you. And so I feel that that is what you can do through Instagram is create a sense of trust by being consistent in the visual representation of your brand.
Thanks so much for sharing those tips. I'm super excited about your upcoming webinars and your courses that you have coming up. But one thing that I didn't get to ask in this episode that I am going to ask before we go is about journaling. You're an avid journaler, and I had to ask because I love journaling too. And I'm always a huge fan of when you're sharing your behind the scenes of your journaling process. So before we go, because I'll definitely make this another episode in a future season, but how did you get started into journaling? And how do you use that as a creative outlet?
So just backstory for anybody that isn't quite sure where the journaling concept came from. Back in March or April of this year, I started a journaling challenge where basically I committed to journaling every day for 21 days. And so I documented that through various like Instagram stories of me journaling. I included some prompts. I included just some like reflections of like what I learned during that 21 days. And so what ended up actually happening is so many people joined into that movement. A lot of people started to journal. A lot of people started to message me telling me that by seeing me be consistent in journaling every day, that it inspired and motivated them to want to journal. And then I was actually approached by a retail space, kind of event space in Atlanta, where I was living at the current time, about hosting a journaling workshop. And so from that kind of just personal journey, it had expanded into this really kind of like a larger, bigger than me kind of movement. And it's been really, really dope. So that's pretty much like how I got started in terms of like speaking more about journaling publicly. But for me, the reason why I started journaling is just because I was going through like a lot of like life transitions. I live in LA, but I was transitioning, kind of trying to figure out like, did I want to stay in LA? My lease was up. And so I kind of moved back home for a little bit. And I was just having like some heavy life questions, like, you know, what am I doing? Like, where do I really want to be? Like, what is my purpose and things like that? And so the time that I spent at home was really just like a reflection time for me. And the best way for me to like reflect over things had been through journaling. So I've been journaling all my life, but like consistently, like always carry a journal with me. It's been about 3 years. But it was very sporadically, like, oh, I'll pull it out maybe once or twice a week. But I really wanted to like commit to doing it, being very intentional and conscious about checking in with my thoughts and how I felt about certain things. And so that's where the challenge really came from. But really, it has been so helpful in just kind of like self introspection. I think one of the things that I realized through journaling is that you have to go back and read what you wrote. Like the physical act of writing, whether that be digitally or whether it be like with a pen and paper, is the release. Like if you could be having you want to reflect on a good memory, that's a release. You want to have that written down somewhere for reflection later. Or if you're struggling with a bad time, you can go back to a good memory and remember how that made you feel. And then if you are struggling in like a hard season of your life, just the release of that, being able to kind of like get it out on paper first with yourself before you take that information to other people who may project on you, or, just kind of like muddle your thoughts. You give it to yourself first. And so that's been very important for me, is to be able to give what I'm feeling to myself first, to be able to reflect over it myself before, I kind of had this habit of like talking to my friends and venting, or, kind of just, oh, this happened, I got to call somebody and talk about it real quick. And I stopped doing that and I just take it to my journal. And I feel like it's given me like the ability to, I would say, like not seek external validation for certain situations. It allowed me to like give myself self-validation, which is something that I was struggling with. And then also it just like calmed me down about certain situations. Like, oh, like once I talked to myself about it and reflected with myself over it, I didn't feel the need to even just talk about it anymore. It was like, oh, okay, like I see what happened there. Okay, I'm good, you know? And then, like I said, like rereading it back, I just noticed like certain patterns that I had. And I feel like I was able to kind of like self-correct. And then also coupled with therapy, I have been seeing a therapist for the last year. I started my therapy journey. It was very helpful we only meet like twice a month. And so it was helpful for me to say like, oh, you know, I was dealing with this and I was kind of struggling with these things and I'm not sure where they're stemming from. And she would be able to kind of like give me some feedback and give me some guidance, but I probably wouldn't have been able to take that to her because I may not have remembered or what have you. And so having that like kind of like the accountability in the pages of my journal has been super helpful. So that's how I got started journaling, and I still do it. Honestly, when they say like when you do something for 21 days, it really becomes a habit. There's not a day that I don't journal. I think that my journaling has just evolved. I have an actual physical journal that I write in, but then I also have started to like digitally journal. There's an app on the App Store. If you have iPhone, I'm not sure if it's available on Android, but it's called Day One. And so basically it's a journaling app I think is really, really cool. I didn't even know journaling apps existed, but you pretty much can create different digital journals. And then each day they kind of have the pages and it'll automatically date it for you. You can do a voice note. So if you just kind of want to talk your feelings out and have it documented somewhere, it'll store that for you. You can upload images, you can write text. And I just think it's been very helpful as well. Like in the instance where, you know, maybe I'm driving and, you know, I just open that and do like a voice note and kind of talk over some stuff with myself. Or, you know, I know that sounds crazy, but it's just like the release of your feelings and just talk out things without consulting another person for me has just been very just eye-opening in my life. So
no, that's super cool. Thanks so much for sharing with me a little bit about that process and that journey. I'm always so interested by that. And so before we go, can you tell us how we can stay connected with you after the show?
Totally. So you can find me on Instagram at Kaye Monster. That's COOKAYE Monster, MONSTER. And I also have, we didn't really talk about this, but I have another page called Cookie Spaces where I feature like really cool cafes and little shops in different cities. And that's COOKAYE Spaces, SPACES. And then if you want to check out my work, you can view my website at kaymccoy.com.
Oh, awesome. And because I'm super curious right now, well, how did you come up with your Instagram name?
Because
every time I see it, I'm like, Cookie Monster.
So, you know, obviously my name is Kaye, and I have a friend in college who, he was like one of those people who always like came up with like really cute like monikers for people. And so there's this like rap song that was like called like What's Up With That Cookie in Atlanta that was going around at the time. And so he was just like, one day he would just like walk around and say like Kaye. Like he would just be like he would say Kaye. Like instead of saying cookie, he would say Kaye. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. And I had been in the market for a Twitter name at the time. And I was like, what could I do with like Kaye? Like at first it was like cookies and milk. And I was like, no, I don't like that. And then, like we were like going through these different like what are phrases that have like cookie in it that I could like play with Kaye, and then I came up with Kaye Monster, and it kind of just stuck ever since then. So.
Oh no, that's so dope. That's so dope. I know I was supposed to be wrapping up the show like 5 times now, but I'm serious this time. I will talk to you later. Thanks so much for coming through. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to hear the final episode.
Woo woo!
Thank you for listening to the Purpose to Create podcast. Share, like, comment, or review this episode. Check out the show notes at www.purposetocreatepodcast.com and connect with us online at Purpose to Create.